Welcome everyone to an epic showdown between myself as the Tomb Kings versus Mukluck as the Greenskins. This match took place on Gorgazan with the Battle of Monsters and Skirmish. So in the front line here for the Greenskins, 3 units of the Skirmish Spider Rider Archers, including the Death Creepers. Nice here with the added regeneration and stalk. So for the front line, 4 units here of the Silver Shield Gobbos, very good at absorbing all different types of damage. And for the main battle line, 4 units of the Armoured and Anti-Large Orc Biggins. So in the back, we are going to have 2 units here of the Monstrous Infantry, one being here the Swampy Things, which do have that Terror, Regeneration, and Overwhelming Odor. And on the right for the second unit, we are going to have the Stone Trolls. Here with the added armor up to 70, 120 armor piercing weapon strength, and that regeneration, making them here a very tanky unit. In the middle pocket, we are going to have the important Black Orc Big Boss, a nice support and tanky unit today. He will have Rabble Rouse, giving that immune to Psychology, which will really help up against that base fear, as well as those terror-causing constructs. In the back, we are going to have the very common Orc Boy Chariot, very good in the current meta with the anti-infantry and armor piercing, and they're supported here by the Lord Choice, Wurzag. He's here going to be on his boar with the effigy of the Git, Foot of Gork, here we go, Gaze of Mork, Bonewood Staff, Squiggly Beast, as well as Wurzag's Revenge, and Power of Dewar. So quite a nice kit here for Wurzag, a really interesting and competitive army here for Mukluck, and he's going to be fighting up against myself and the Tomb Kings, 4 units of the Skeleton Horse Archers in the front. Now they are going to win here with the added 140 range compared to the 100 here of the Death Creepers. So we should be able to hopefully win there in the front, but for the main battle line, 5 units of the Skeleton Warriors, nice, cheap and cheerful, and they're going to be alongside 2 units here of the Tomb Guard Halberds, nice for the anti-large and armor piercing. In the middle pocket, we are going to be having the Kepler Guard, Tomb Guard, the ROR here with that regeneration, anti-infantry, and magical attacks. So for the big bad first construct, we are going to have the Sphinx of Yusef, an absolutely gorgeous unit here with its terror. Of course, it has its flaming resistance, fire attacks, magic attacks, anti-large, and armor piercing. This thing is an absolute terror against anything that has regeneration. So a very nice unit that is really well supported here by the Necrotect. So he is going to be anti-infantry here on foot, but I've mostly brought him here for restore. So you can heal up to 2,016 hit points on any constructs here on the battlefield, including the big bad boy himself. So for the last unit here on the right, we are going to be having Settra the Imperishable on a kitty cat. So a very nice unit here, anti-infantry and armor piercing, but he will have the Blessed Braid of Petra, as well as the Wrath of Petra, the Incantation of Protection, the Incantation of the Cursed Blades, Unyielding Will, the Restless Dead, and the Curse. So in the front line here, we can see a skirmish battle going off 4 horse archers with the added range up against the Forest Goblin Spider Rider archers. And at the moment, it looks like it's going to be a rough advantage here to myself, as it is going to be 4 up against 3. But we do have regeneration and stalk for the Death Creepers, so fighting them with their extra tank can be quite difficult. Now, I'm going to get the better of the engagements here, and what I really like for Mukluck is he is going to be moving his forces forward, knowing that unfortunately he's not going to be winning the skirmish engagement. And finally, into the front line, you can see my Skeleton Horse Archers do absolutely no damage here up against these silver shields of those Gobbos, so the arrows here really not too worth it. So really applying the pressure here is going to be Mukluck. We can see he's going to be pushing forward, really closing up this gap, and really taking a big hit on my skirmish game. So actually force some Skeleton Warriors to come forward to really screen out here up against the Spider Riders, as I do manage to get my Skeleton Horse Archers back. It was 3 against 1 there, as a little bit of missed micromanagement from myself. We move on just a little bit forward coming here. We can see that actually now the Skeleton Horse Archers come to the left. My objective here was to get around the flank and try and see if we can remove all this cavalry. If we can, then I'll obviously have the mobility advantage here in the late stages. So the front line's coming in waves. I really like the waves here. It looks like with the cheap infantry at the front. It looks like we're going to be having the anti-large tank in the middle and waiting for the rear charges here, hopefully from these trolls. In the front line, we are going to have smashing here into the front line are going to be the Gobbos, really fighting here up against these Skeleton Warriors. Both of these chaff units going absolutely at it here with War every day of the week. You are going to be having the Gobbos winning, but some nice cycle charging here with the nice Orc Boar Chariots. They're going to just be moving through knife like butter here on these Skeleton Warriors. Here is Wurzag really trying to aid in that front line, trying to give that added physical resistance here to the Gobbos and also the Orc Chariots, as they do move into the back here on top of the Tomb Guard Halberds. Not the best selection for them to be fighting up. If they do stay in sustained combat, they can see themselves going down pretty quickly. Over here in the middle, we can see that we've actually managed to get both of the trolls here on top of Settra. He's going to be using... Oh, a near miss there from a Vindictive Glare on the Sphinx of Yusef. A nice attack animation there, pushing him away from that. Actually destroying the Black Hole Big Boss here in the middle. Troll's going to be chasing here up against Settra the Imperishable. Fire damage given to himself as he does run away. It looks like they're going to move back in and try and fight here up against the Sphinx. So we're going to be breaking down some Gobbos, trying to see if we can snipe the Black Hole Big Boss. Removing Rabble Rouse will be very nice in this stage of the game. In the middle here, getting really charged, we can see we have 2 units of Orc Biggins with the anti-large fighting here up against Settra. But he's going to clear them out pretty quickly there with those attack animations. A very nice unit here up against the Greenskins indeed. Skirmish here on the side, we can see unfortunately I've actually clogged up just a little bit too much here, but I'm still going to be winning the Skirmish game. I'd like to see myself just spread this unit out just a little bit more, but of course 4 units of Skirmish plus managing the front line is quite difficult. Looks like here the Skeleton Warriors are going to be losing here up against Gobbos in the front line. I actually managed to use here my ability, the Realms of Ushopti, to summon some Ushopti here to try and pin in the Black Hole Big Boss and the Double Stone Trolls. It looks like here we go, going down in a 40-meter radius for the 40 melee attack, as we do try and fight Wurzag here up against the Sphinx of Yusef. Incantation of Protection, the Incantation of the Cursed Blades going down to really help him assassinate Wurzag. He'll be fighting here, mano on mano, but he is going to be going down. This could be a big loss here for Mukluck. I really try and snipe him here with the anti-large and armor-piercing Sphinx to try and see if we can remove all that leadership here for the Greenskins that already is quite low. Stone Trolls in the middle trying to thump here up against Tomb Guard. Tomb Guard very good with the armor-piercing up against Stone Trolls, as that monstrous infantry will count as large. In the middle here, we have Broken Wurzag. He is going to be shattering, and that is the end of him. The Sphinx can now move in there with that fire and magic damage to see if he can carve upon this front line. In comes the bad boy himself. Settra's trying to come through and see if he can pounce onto any unsuspecting foes. Skirmish game still going down as a couple of units here have used all the ammunition. Fighting in combat here is going to be the Skeleton Horse Archers up against the Death Creepers. A nice good explosion here in the middle as we do try and get away with Settra. And in the front, the Sphinx still going to be fighting here up against these Stone Trolls. Goblins here in the front line are going to be fighting, and now it looks like we do actually have Goblins fighting up against Tomb Guard Halberds. I'd like to get the Tomb Guard in here a little bit to see if we can fight up against some of the Swamp Things, or maybe try and see if we can fight up against the Stone Trolls. That's where they're going to get the most of their value. The Curse is going to be going down here in the pocket, doing some really nice damage here up against the Orc Biggins and all the units here in a 40-meter radius. In the back, I'm going to be using some of my Skirmish Cavalry here to try and see if we can chase off and maybe try and see if we can beat down some of the cavalry from the Greenskins. Also, chasing down some of the infantry that has broken is a great way of using your cheap archers that have run out of ammunition. Over here on the flanks, we can see that we are having the Orc boards coming back in. War has been parked for the armor-piercing, base weapon damage, and melee attack. And the most important thing here, the immune to psychology. Now, we do have it here from the big Black Hole Big Boss, but of course, everything else there is going to be imbued with it as well. The boys moving back in. The anti-large Orc Biggins going to come try and fight here up against these nice, big, bad constructs. As we move in here, 2 side by side, slapping apart Orc Biggins as well as the Swampy Things, really cleaning out the middle here of the core of the Greenskins. Fighting very well. Looks like we are going to break here using the ROR River Trolls. And in the middle, the Black Hawk Big Boss here is going to be getting slapped around here by Settra the Imperishable. It looks like we are going to have Incantation of the Cursed Blades going down for the added armor piercing. We could hopefully try and see if we get some protection for him as well, as he's going to be very low, down to 1.3k health. Balance of power heavily shifting into the Tomb King's favor, and it looks like it's going to be the Black Hawk Big Boss versus the world. Balance of power does shift here into army losses, with a big win here from myself. Great game. I really enjoyed this up against Mukluck. We had a conversation about this. What we actually did is we played the first game where he brought Tomb Kings up against Greenskins. He wanted to try and find a good counter, so I played a game as my Greenskins against him, and he said, oh, I wasn't too sure about that. I don't know how it felt. I said, let me try and use the same army, and then we'll try and see how I do against him, and it ended up being a really, really good close game, so of course I had to cast it. But really well played to him. We can see here 400 damage value for Wurzag. Really unfortunate there with War, as well as Here We Go going down. Unfortunately couldn't assassinate the Sphinx of Yusef, but still got in there, really assisted the front line, some good wins and magic, so it was nice to see him, and he's always a very fun pick. 788 here for the Black Hawk Big Boss. Something I would say is bring the Blast Creeper with him. That's plus 10 melee attack in a 40 meter radius. That could be plus 10 melee attack here for Stone Trolls, plus 10 melee attack for all biggins as well, including your lords and anything there in a 40 meter radius that you can use to try and snipe big entity models, or maybe even just try and snipe elite infantry like range or infantry, just anything there. It could be really, really important. 4 units, the cheap Gorries here, got 350, 400, 300, and 204. Very, very good units for their cost. 950, 1,200, 500, and 450 for the Orc Biggins, and for the Chariots, 700. We've got 180, 240, and 733 here for the Death Creepers. So the Death Creepers doing very well, but of course the other two here really struggling without that regeneration here up against the other units of the Skeleton Horse Archers. 35 for 1.3k here for the Stone Trolls, and the ROR 600. Now, I do like their debuff in a radius of -6 melee attack, but I think I do prefer always having Stone Trolls, the added armor and the added punch as well. So it's 100 armor piercing here for the Swampy Things, but if you go here, it's 120 for the Stone Trolls per model. That extra 20 there over the small amount of 12 models they've got really does add extra damage, and it is really worth it in my opinion. But really well played to Mukluck, and for myself here, I've got 1,130 for Settra, 134 here for the Necrotect, 110, 220, 195, as well as 170 and 133 here for the Skeleton Warriors. For the anti-large Tomb Guard Halberds, we've got 850 and 970, 1,040 for the Kepra Guard, with 460, 380, 570, and 660 here for the Skeleton Horse Archers, and 3,500 for the Sphinx of Yusef. Probably one of my favourite units here in the Tomb King roster. So, guys, I hope you enjoyed this great game. If you did, please smash that like button. I really appreciate it. Drop a comment down below about what you thought as well. If you are new, maybe think about subscribing. I would really appreciate it. But do go check out down on that description. You can find all of my other social media platforms, and most importantly, my Discord. On there, you can vote for all things you'd like to see here on the channel in the future, as well as all my single-player, multiplayer stuff, all my leagues and tournaments, and you can leave your replays for casting just like this one here. But other than that, I've been your boy Logic. Take care of yourself during these times, and I'll see you all very, very soon. Take care.